80 years ago today, on the beaches of Nazi-occupied France, history was forged. By sea, by air, thousands and tens of thousands showed extraordinary courage. Allied forces launching their major offensive against Germany. The bloody operation killed thousands of troops in a matter of hours, but it did manage to secure a critical foothold in France, one that marked the beginning of the end of World War II in Europe. The sound of waves lapping at the beach is a common sight along this Lake Michigan shoreline, but in Two Rivers, the area does have an additional connection to that Normandy invasion. Fox 11's Eric Peterson has our story.
The date on the bottom of this black and white picture reads June 18th, 1942.
And actually looking at those photos, you'd almost think it was photoshopped. So it's a little surreal that that actually happened. You know, obviously there are some buildings that are not here anymore that used to be here.
Point Beach State Forest Superintendent Aaron Dembski Rodriguez is talking about the Raleigh Point Lighthouse and the stretch of sand to the lake.
The significance right here on this beach in front of the lighthouse, they did practice landings.
They were doing invasion planning and they needed as many ships and vessels that they could to get all the equipment and men and everything aboard foreign soil.
Wisconsin Maritime Museum submarine curator Karen Duval says during World War II, Manitowoc Shipbuilding constructed 36 landing craft tanks. The 120-foot-long LCTs delivered tanks, jeeps, and troops to hostile shores. She says 13 participated in the D-Day invasion on June 6, 1944. Steve Carter's dad, Luther, was there.
He had lied about his age to get in the Navy. So on D-Day, he was 16 years old, manning a 20-millimeter gun like the one is over here.
Carter's dad survived the war. The efforts and impacts of the LCTs will be on display beginning Saturday at the Wisconsin Maritime Museum in Manitowoc. Back to the beach. Aaron Dembski Rodriguez says those who know what transpired here appreciate that history even more.
People are very intrigued by it. So it is a pretty exciting, you know, discovering that actually happened here.
In Manitowoc County, Eric Peterson, Fox 11 News.
Saturday's exhibit at the museum is scheduled to be part of the permanent collection. A photo at Point Beach State Forest is on display at the park's office. You can see that photo and a gallery of others within Eric's story on our website. Check it out at fox11online.com. There you can also watch President Roosevelt's D-Day prayer to the nation.
Last week marked the 80th anniversary of D-Day. The Wisconsin Maritime Museum has a new exhibit about the Manitowoc Shipbuilding Company's role in World War II. Submarine curator Karen Duval joins us now live to show us around and tell us more. Karen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Why don't you let us know what area of the museum this exhibit is on?
This is the lower level. This is considered part of our permanent exhibit on the lower level about the history of the shipbuilding in Manitowoc.
Absolutely. Why don't you kind of go into detail about this exhibit and what people will learn?
Well, we're here. Most people know that we built 28 submarines, but Manitowoc also built 37 landing craft tanks, or LCTs, and they were the lead yard. They were asked to build these classes. They were the first company in the U.S. to build LCTs, and they were the lead yard and were in charge of planning, training, equipment, supplies, things like that, and a huge contribution to the war.
Karen, is there any part in this exhibit that stands out to you or very interesting for people to learn about?
Most people don't know much about, you know, the landing crafts, the amphibious warfare. This was new in World War II. So we cover how they were built here and then also their role in World War II and D-Day. So I think it's a nice connection to make, since Manitowoc Had about 13 boats that were there on D-Day. But we also have uniforms of some crew members and some pieces that were basically at D-Day.
Is this a very interactive exhibit, or do you just kind of walk around and look at it? The one we looked at previously in our 5 o'clock hour seemed pretty interactive, but what about this one?
Yeah, we're not as a cool exhibit, but we do have an interactive touchscreen in this exhibit, so you can look at more photos. There's also basically a page or two of information for every one of the 37 submarines. I mean, sorry, submarines, I'm used to that. LCTs that were built here. So maps of the amphibious forces and their invasions. So there's a lot more you can learn in this exhibit.
Absolutely. When can people come check it out? What days are you open? What time?
Right now we're in our summer hours, so we're open 7 days a week, 9 to 5.
All right, head out there to Manitowoc. We'll post all the information on our website. Karen, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Wisconsin Maritime Museum has some new exhibits on display. One details the Manitowoc Shipbuilding Company's role in World War II. Submarine curator Karen Duvall joins us now live to tell us more. Karen, tell us about this exhibit called Turning the Tide. Give us a little history on this.
Sure, good morning. A lot of people know that Manitowoc built 28 submarines during World War II, but what most don't know is they also built 37 LCTs, which are landing craft tank. This was the first yard to build them in the States, and they became the leaders for the rest of the LCTs that were built, and they carried tanks, trucks, jeeps ashore at different amphibious invasions.
How important is this to have this local connection to it?
It's an incredible story. LCTs played a huge part in the invasion of Normandy, D-Day, where we just had the 80th anniversary. Without these vessels, they wouldn't have gotten all their equipment on land. So it's really important, I think, to get the story out that Manitowoc were the leaders in this type of craft.
No, that's pretty amazing. What part of the exhibit really stands out to you, Karen?
Well, right in front of us here, we have a large, or 20 millimeter deck gun. These were put on the LCTs as defense when they were doing invasions. So we have this one on display right above all the panels.
You know, and there's some interactive features as well. Can you tell us about that?
We do have a touchscreen that allows you to get some more information. There's lots of photos of the construction, the launching, different classes and the differences. They also did their practice trials on shore just north of here at Point Beach or Raleigh Point. So those are some really great photos to look through and see them landing on the beach just north of us.
What area of the museum is this exhibit on, Karen?
This is in our lower level. It's next to our already existing 28 boat exhibit in Manitowoc Shipbuilding during World War II. So it's easy to access.
And this is really for any age, right? You just want people in the area to really learn the history behind this?
Correct. And we even have an interactive table. Still trying to finish that up, but we'll have simple machines so kids can learn a little bit more about shipbuilding and some of the basics behind that.
Karen, what days will you be open? What time can people come check this out?
We're back into our summer hours, so we're open 7 days a week from 9 to 5.
All right, we'll post everything on our website out there at the Maritime Museum. We appreciate your time this morning, Karen. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Thanks. Have you ever wanted to get an up-close look at maritime history? We have an idea for you. We're at the Wisconsin Maritime Museum checking out a new exhibit. It's called Wisconsin's Shipwreck Coast. Chief Curator Kevin Cullen joins us now live to show us around. Kevin, good morning to you.
Good morning, Emily. How are you doing? Welcome to Manitowoc.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Why don't you tell us where you're at exactly in the museum right now?
So we're in the museum's first floor on the street level in our newest exhibit, Wisconsin Shipwreck Coasts. So this is underwater national park. For those that didn't know, the new National Marine Sanctuary called Wisconsin Shipwreck Coast National Marine Sanctuary. And this exhibit, a 3,000 square foot exhibit, really tells the story of the peopling of the upper Great Lakes here in Wisconsin in particular. So working with our partners at the National Marine Sanctuary, among others with the Wisconsin Historical Society, we're really trying to tell that maritime heritage really over the last 350 years. We know humans have been on the water here for over 10,000 years, Native Americans. This exhibit really focuses on the last 300 and the many shipwrecks that have gone down. From hundreds of different shipwrecks. We're talking almost 1,000 in Wisconsin waterways. And today, of course, we're still transporting goods and things and people all across the Great Lakes. But that was really the main highway of the past, was the waterways. And so to this day, now there's just a whole host of these shipwrecks that we're learning about, and the artifacts from them are now on exhibit really for the first time in many cases.
It's so interesting. Kevin, are there any certain stories that really stand out to you?
There really is. In fact, so you're seeing some of the video here. One of the wrecks that I'm really particularly drawn to is called the Niagara. It was a sidewheel steamship that went down off of Port Washington. And here's some kiosks that people can really dive into and see what the wreck looked like today. So if you're not a scuba diver, you can at least appreciate the landscape. And this is in about 50 feet of water. It went down in 1856. And the artifacts over here are from that shipwreck. And many of them are personal objects. So the ship burned in September of 1856, killing over 60 people, unfortunately. And many of the objects, they're really, truly the treasures of the past, belong to some of these passengers. It was coming from Canada. It was on its way to Chicago, and it burned off of Port Washington, just south of here in Manitowoc. We've got luggage tags, things that are familiar, corkscrews and pocket knives, but even jewelry that is from Asia. So really, it's a powerful thing. This story, though, in particular, actually is connected, we know, this ship with the Underground Railroad. So actually even freedom seekers leaving the South from slavery, finding their way onto ships to go to Canada. The Niagara was one of those ships.
Wow.
And so you can see the cargo. Some of this was what people brought with them or what was being transported across the Great Lakes, including somebody's shoe or a skate, an ice skate from the 1850s, even a firearm for personal protection. Probably the most visceral of all these objects is this melted brass bell. So this truly proves what happened to the shipwreck. You can see just how it's melted. That takes over 1,700 degree Fahrenheit heat to melt brass. So again, these are the pieces of the past that is this truth. When you look at this, you can read about it in a history book, but when you actually look at the objects connected to the archaeological site that is the shipwreck, all of this comes to life.
Wow, unbelievable. Kevin, we ran out of time, so you'll have to go check it out for yourself if you're watching at home. All of that right there in Manitowoc. We'll post everything on our website.
Preserving a piece of the past. Underwater archaeologists are documenting shipwrecks along Wisconsin's coastlines, and you can learn more about it in a new exhibit at the Wisconsin Maritime Museum in Manitowoc. And Chief Curator Kevin Cullen joins us live to show us around. Hi, Kevin.
Good morning, Rachel. How you doing?
Good. I know you want to talk about this Pioneer Shipwreck Hunter. What is that, and what can we learn about it?
So pioneer shipwreck hunting in Wisconsin, it's over 50 years. Early scuba divers were influenced by Jacques Cousteau and really came to really great lengths to kind of emulate some of that discovery. So above me, behind me, is actually a homemade submersible that was made in Milwaukee in Wauwatosa by Richard Bennett. He's one of the earliest dive instructors in Wisconsin, and he made this. It's like a car, right, from something you'd see out of 007 or something, but you would be a diver inside that. It would fill with water, and then that would take you down underneath. And he built this in the mid-'80s, really, to go look for what he thought was treasure off of Poverty Island in northern Lake Michigan. So we have his dive equipment, and you can just see how rudimentary some of this equipment was in the 1960s and 70s when they were diving. But it was through that, so both Richard Bennett and Steve Radovan and Butch Klopp, these are some of the early names that, went and found these shipwrecks that now we're talking about and documenting archaeologically.
So that vessel worked for him.
It did, yeah. So it was electric motors in the back, and he would basically be piloting along, looking down underneath. There's actually a little hatch here so you could see if there was anything down below. But it's made of fiberglass, and we had to figure out how we could suspend this from the ceiling. So that was a fun logistical challenge. But again, that's what we do here at the museum is tell stories through objects, and this is just one of those fascinating objects. But today we actually have modern technology, you know, using side-scan sonar to make these bathymetric maps. And these are basically your underwater topographic maps. So here, of course, Green Bay, and, you know, we're in Manitowoc, but the lines, it shows, you know, how deep it is out there. And these wrecks are within, you know, some of them in hundreds and hundreds of feet of water. Wow. So we want to give people that kind of perspective, and then also explore using remotely operated vehicles. And so you can actually pilot an ROV here and learn about what ROVs do. And now today, you know, here's one little one here, and this is one we use when we go looking for shipwrecks, dropping it down, and you can record hours of footage. And here you can actually simulate what that's like. So for those that love video games, this is a fun little interactive as we learn how to pilot an ROV.
Well, the technology
so lots
is amazing.
to see here. We have many.
Yep,
yes,
we did. We ran out of time. Kevin, so sorry, but I know it's a great exhibit, and people really need to go there themselves and see the interactive parts of it and walk around and learn more about the shipwrecks. Thank you so much.